Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 406. I got Stoked on Ice with us today, aka Yuri C, joining us on the table. Yuri, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Just getting back. Relaxing. Good to be home in New York.
Nice. And so I got to take a quick millisecond and just do a quick shout out to Twitter for all of the weird things that it's allowing us to do as content creators, makers, builders. Shouting out to everyone joining us via YouTube, Twitch, Telegram, Discord, and LinkedIn, and Unlonely as we beam out to Farcaster as well. So huge shout out to the Warpcast fam. And we have like 3 Twitter spaces going on at once for some reason, as we are doing like live video, live space, and then this space with us. Are we getting an overload, Yuri?
It sounds good on my end, but I still think you broke the internet.
Oh my gosh. I do have to do a quick morning rest in pieces for Xenon, which was one of my other on-chain streaming platforms, and not able to do that anymore sort of sucks. It's going to be the death of us. Can't stream what we want to. So, Yuri, you are in the hot seat. You took the co-host position. Tell us a little bit about you.
I build. I like building educational products to get people from step 0, never ever, to step 1. I've been living in New York, kind of building as of late, and I'm hosting a Twitter Spaces, thanks to Cardano spot, every Wednesday called Culture Maxis. We just kind of focus on building community, focusing on integrity and growing in the right way, whether you're a community member, team member, building the community, or founder. We kind of just get like-minded people in a panel and kind of chop it up.
Man, got to do a huge shout out to Cardano and that entire community. I've been doing Cardano stuff for a while as a degen. Really didn't get into the NFT scene. CNFT last year in Vegas sort of opened my eyes to like, wait a second. There was like 150 projects there, It was amazing, Huge shout out to Clay Nation and what they're building out. I think that's some cool stuff there. What's your favorite Cardano conference so far?
I think you just named it. And funny enough, it's happening right now. The one in Vegas is kind of a great deal. Everyone gets very hyped up for it. And I'm hoping there's more of that within the US, but Vegas takes the cake. It's on my list early and often.
Yeah, NFTLV is happening, and some amazing stuff's going on there. And is CNFT going on in conjunction with that, as part of that, or separate? Or is that the same thing?
Same thing. It's trying to move away from whether there's a C or no C.
Okay.
Ultimately, I think there's some good tech going on all around, and as long as there's community building, I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. We one of the things we really liked about CNFT, and I think it's the same for this year, ticket prices. You can't beat. You want to talk about adoption for the mainstream and educating new people. Ticket prices being in the thousands really is only for select few, while ticket prices in the $30 range is like, we're in Vegas, of course we can go do this, so some cool stuff there. What were you gonna say?
I agree. I think barrier to entry is a massive discussion. It's a problem. I think it just doesn't get spoken about enough. I think I lean into consistency and chemistry, and It seems ultimately like there's a couple of ecosystems that do that really well, but I think that's how you kind of weed out who's here to stay and who's not, based on how inclusive they may or may not be.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where, we talk about onboarding masses, and educating, yet to come to these conferences to hear these people talk, it's a big barrier. Um, for some conferences, I agree, like they're more industry related than, for the average person, because they're talking high level infrastructure and like regulatory compliance talks that matter to the specific industries, rather they're so industry led. And I can understand the pricing on that, especially when they have high end, the big speakers and stuff like that, and location. But like NFT conferences where we're trying to get the masses to have a PFP picture in a hexagon, it sort of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's something that just shows how early we are, and ultimately, I think the global use case will force that exclusivity not to just completely disappear, because I think there's a fit for everyone, but ultimately it'll just redefine the way we view all of this. Is just the access that's undeniable, or the reason why any of this was built.
Yeah. I do have to do two quick shout outs. One to Coinbase, as we're talking about exclusivity and like ownership. We've been talking about a lot of regulation the last couple months. Coinbase and other projects took to the Capitol yesterday to testify. I don't necessarily want to say against the SEC and against Gary Gensler, but on behalf of the crypto industry yesterday. And standwithcrypto.org if you're wanting to know where you can have a voice, and how to do that. Standwithcrypto.org is a really good place to start that out at. Yuri, what do you think about some of these grassroots efforts on political action in blockchain?
I mean, this tech was designed to be censorship resistant, right? Like, if there was ever a use case, being able to speak freely or even become passionate about what you believe in, this stuff has always been a great way to test it. I mean, it's worked ever, at any point in time, really, anywhere from currently what you've described from what's going on to even some of my other favorite cases, like the truckers were a great example of it. That was the first thing that came to mind when I know to see through Bitcoin in the title, but
Yeah.
censorship resistance is the beauty of crypto, and self custody is kind of my part.
Yeah, and that was a big push. There's been a lot of talk lately about like GoFundMe and with PayPal going into crypto, and censorship happening before from like PayPal and GoFundMe. Is there trust already there? Is it already in everyone's hands so it's an easy onboarding solution, or do you think that there's going to be some trust that needs to be overcome?
Anything that brings knowledge to the space, I'm all for. But I kind of just view custody as different software options. I think ultimately there's going to be a Windows, Mac, and Linux versions of all of this. But in my opinion, the most open source or Linux-esque version of this is owning your own keys, which I find it really difficult to see any of these companies offering that in complete freedom or in that form. But that's why there's other companies that exist. So it'll be exciting to see how this plays out. But I'm all for people being able to utilize this stuff, knowing their options. And as much as I'd love to throw keys at people, at the end of the day, options are the reason this tech is great.
Yeah, no, I do have to shout out to Cather Holt, GM from joining us from Unlonely. When we're talking censorship, we've started to see a decline in Beacon OFAC compliance. I think now it's at like 41% of the chain is following OFAC compliance, and it's slowly dwindling. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? You are on mute, Yuri.
Sorry about that. I'm under the firm belief that pressure makes diamonds. I don't see how a network can be denied at this point. That's kind of where I'm at. I think all of this is stuff to pay attention to, but it will all play out just as it should. And ultimately, the market will dictate where innovation goes. Whether or not it's frustrating for us is a whole other story. But I think this will all play out just fine. Do you have any major concerns, Taco?
I think it's a twofold. It's everything seems to be double-edged swords these days. I think it's a benefit and proof of the system that OFAC compliance is down, meaning that censorship is down. But what I on one end of it, I fear that regulatory compliance will come down and be like, look, we made rules and no one's following these rules that we've already laid out. So we're gonna put the knife down on you harder.
Yeah, I feel like they were already pretty difficult to begin with. Be interesting to see how much more difficult this can get. Do you have anything in mind?
No, I think I've talked about this a little bit. I think some of the draconian measures that might come into place from the SEC will be, and and Congress will be like full AML, full KYC for like all dexes and protocols. And that will be the opening shot, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think the only thing you can do is hope that it protects the end consumer, but I think time will tell. There's no other way but to let it go and see where it goes. But I'm all for people speaking their mind about it. All for it.
Yeah. So let's roll back a little bit. Some of the things that you've done, like you've had a hand as a builder in some major things, especially on like the education side and on Bitcoin and just sort of being a builder and a voice. What are some of the things that you've touched on and done?
There's been a bit of a range. Mostly, I specialize in building curriculum, so kind of empowering individuals for utilizing wallets and owning their own digital assets. Like I've done some projects in Southeast Asia entailing that. And then I've also kind of worked on some self-custody curriculum within the US area. I've worked in a couple of DAOs as well, kind of empowering Ukrainian artists to be able to find refuge. But ultimately, it's me just tapping into social good. Like I think the real connecting piece is being able to move beyond early adoption and kind of empowering creators or really just people who need these tools and need direct to consumer models.
No. Now, as you're talking about, self custody, there's 1,000 wallet options out there, and it seems like there's more every day. What are some of the red flags that you look for? What are some of the green flags, and what are some of the, I don't know, like white flags? Like, this is cool, but I don't need it because I have this.
I think there's a blend of ease of use that goes kind of hand in hand with protection, and I feel like you need both. I think there are people who think it's either one or the other, but I would argue that there are people who have wallets in their pockets that they walk around with in real life, and some people even have saves that sit in their own home. And I think everybody's version of self custody depends on the individual. But things that I happen to like a bunch are accessibility. If someone was to look to use something at a store, ideally, I think people should have access to that. But on the same note, hardware wallets to me are also kind of a must. And then I think eventually people should look into multi-sig. But for now, I think kind of one or the other. You and I actually had a great discussion about this of having an accessible share option to be able to show others that this stuff exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of high on my priority list as well, of making it accessible to make sure that the bankless can be banked.
Yeah.
I think it could go a couple different ways. Me personally, I do not mind Ledger, Trezor, obviously the straight shooters, but I'd even go as far as just cold card. And then I think there are plenty of on-the-fly wallets, as I like to call them, that are doing a great job in this era. What about you, Taco?
I'm not a huge Trezor fan because of interoperability and sort of like ease of use. I think Trezor is more for maybe people that have been around for a second. I'm a huge fan of Ledger. I've done, for transparency, I've done some videos and content for Ledger. I have 4 of the 5, or no, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have like 3 of the 4 models out of Ledger. And then like sort of like cold card, I've started to use Tangem. They have a secure element on the card that's built into the entire card. I like that little security piece to where it's just like a double signature. Like like that's all hard wallets are, but I can use it with multi-sig safe as well. And so I can put multiple layers between me and my own funds, not necessarily to keep them safe from others, but to keep them safe from me, instead of like, do I really want to go through that effort to get access to that, to go buy that thing, or to send that to my hot wallet to go buy that thing, or go interact with the protocol? So I think that, Tangem is really is stepping up its game. I like them. And I think I think the biggest thing I like about them is their price, where a lot of models of hard wallets are, in that 100 to 200 range, even for starters. Tangem's most expensive product's $69. And I think that that's sort of a really good entry point for people that want to look at security. As we were talking about, you know, uh, uh, as we were talking about onboarding people, I think the cost to onboard people into protecting their assets is a big deterrent and big entry point discussion as well. Because I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it's that. Like, I think the wallet use is part of the discussion, and then I think the other piece is that people need ways to wrap it into their identity, and for some people, digital is more than enough. But I feel like there's an IRL component coming around the corner that kind of needs to be tapped into more and more, and I believe that goes hand in hand with the wallets like you're describing. Like, I think we're scratching the surface with the concept of NFCs within items, but the breakthrough, I don't want to call anything just yet, will happen when someone is able to blend the physical a little bit more so than it already is right now.
So I know one of the things I know that Tangem is working on is they're working on a ring authenticator. So like, you can wear it. It's not something, that you have to worry about. And but then there's also like the necklaces that have the NFCs in them. I saw the shirt that has an NFC that you can have a second signer inside of that element. I think some of that is like that. The shirt is like, okay, well, you always have to have that shirt on, but then you're worried about putting it through the laundry, and losing that second signer. But there's some crazy stuff. I don't know. Oh man, it must have been 3 or 4 months ago where this app came out that hashes paint colors, and can hash that into a signature based on pictures. So like if you paint your walls like 3 different colors, and then you take pictures of those colors in a specific pattern, that can be your hash key. Talk about a layer of privacy and security there.
I'm just trying to envision what colors I would pick. I think this is fascinating. Now I'm just trying to envision items that don't require washing machines, and
Yeah.
what is the real cheat code? Like I like the idea of, and I've seen it already in person, but the sneakers and watches are
Yep.
things that I think are not necessarily going to get washed right out the gate, but can be identifiable with those types of things. I just think that the catch is that I want to tap less. I don't know if I want to tap more, but we'll see how society evolves.
Yeah. One of the things that I really am liking are delegated wallets, you know, to where my hot wallet has all the power and authority of the items I hold in storage. And so I can benefit from those items without putting them at risk, because everything makes you want to connect, to like validate on-chain identity, token gated. We shouldn't have to put our assets at risk, um, to benefit from having them.
No, I agree. Because that wouldn't match the modern world. I think this goes back to your previous thought. This is why you kind of need the companies that make people feel comfortable.
Yeah. I think we were at the same event one time. I don't even remember. Oh, I do remember the event. It was when we got to speak to Alex Kahana. And I got to meet one of the Arbitrum researcher engineers, science engineers, and we've always like the classic modern saying is not your keys, not your crypto. And he was like, we need to get past to not your keys, not your problem type of issue like that you have with banks. Do you feel that's a way there's a possibility of that in a decentralized world, or only centralized?
I think that can exist in both, but I live in a world where I think both are going to exist. Like even if you just look at how people normally adopt technology, like let's use social media for example. As much as you want everyone to find their own voice and adopt this technology and use it the same way, they do not. The amount of time it takes someone to figure out some of these things, I think even just being able to transact on a different network or ecosystem is considered a win. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but it's a start in that direction. And I kind of look at this and think I can understand the alternative mindset.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I have to agree with it. I think it's just a world we live in. There's plenty of other topics that exist like that you can see why they would take that approach. But on the same note, if everything were to go wrong, it's their problem.
Yeah. So we're starting to see more payment options in crypto coming forward. I want to say El Salvador, but I think it's probably another country. But it's probably El Salvador, where like even McDonald's, you can pay for your orders in Bitcoin, right? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, very, very doable. I don't know if I'd suggest it, but I think it's a great gesture to do it once or twice.
Yeah. And it's on those touch screens that they have, Lightning Network, so it sends an invoice and authorizes just that amount, and you have to approve just that amount. Where do you see Lightning in all of this?
I see it as something that's being worked out, and I think eventually you would be able to utilize your Bitcoin but I don't think the urge to spend it will exist anytime soon. I just think that the FOMO level is just a little bit too high. I do wonder if there will be a way to kind of scale this using alternative payments.
Yeah.
But I think as of right now, I just think it's great that people have access to banking. And in that use case, Lightning serves an amazing purpose because there are individuals who don't get to stroll to a checking account and fix things up like in New York City. So I think that for now it solves a massive need in the world. And then I'm curious to see how it evolves. But based on how everyone speculates, the FOMO might slow down spending initially.
Yeah. But is that the classic problem of hoarding Bitcoin? When it wasn't meant to be, it was meant to, like, the idea was to peer-to-peer cashless system, yet it's turned into instead financial platinum bars.
I think it's expected. I just think in the time horizon that we view it, it feels like people have been holding on for an eternity.
Yeah.
But I bet you it's sooner around the corner than we realize. I don't think this is a 100-year play. Maybe
Yeah.
it is, but it doesn't feel like it.
I think one of the really cool things that I've seen turn around is the fact that Bitcoin has been classified as a valued asset. So companies are able to hold it on their books as an asset with value. And they'll be able to leverage that. So I think as companies, they see that a source of financial, another thing that they can own, that they can leverage, and produce, garner more debt on. I think that that's something that will really push it forward, of more holders and buyers than actual sellers. And that's when we'll start to see the price really start to appreciate. Do you think, so I was asked the classic question tonight, by, for those that are joining us on video, I am not wearing a hat tonight like I normally always do, because I'm showcasing my fresh beard cut and haircut. I'm looking clean, Yuri. You would be proud. I don't look like a hairy Yeti. But my barber, he asked me, he was like, I actually just read, this is what he said. He's like, I read something today that by 2029, 1 Bitcoin will be $1 million. And that means, and I had to answer him. I was like, I don't know, what do you think? Will a sat ever reach $1? Will a sat always equal a sat, or are we too far away from that to actually put a number to that?
I think some things have to get sorted out in the short term. Be great if that took place by 2029. I'm doing that math in my head.
Yeah.
I try to stare at the price less and less. I think there's opportunity, and obviously staring at the price, because there are people who trade. But I don't know if it scales that quickly. I think it will improve leaps and bounds. And the current events do play in the favor of better price overall. But I try to lean into a sat as a sat as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because if I'm playing the long game, I'm not thinking of myself being able to spend it. I'm almost thinking of it as digital property to be able to pass on. Maybe not full platinum bar, but at least understanding that I'm harnessing part of a network that I can pass down.
Yeah. No, that's one of those things to where, if a sat reaches a penny, there's a lot of people that are going to be happy. But at the same time, it comes to a lot to education. One of the links that, you turned me on to, was User, Bitcoin and blockchain education, and you get rewarded in sats. I think stuff like that is amazing. Where do you think Learn to Earn is going?
I think for early adoption, it's amazing. I think it encourages community conversation and begins building out news networks that are very important. I think that style of access to network, learn to earn, is a great concept that I hope continues to expand. But I'm curious about the scalability of it long term. But I think for now, it's exactly what an industry needs, is not only learning, but how do I make it fun? And I feel like that does a great job of it.
Yeah, I got to do a huge shout out to the entire user community, the user founders. I'm actually in contact with one of them, and we'll actually have them on the show, hopefully sometime in October. You know, um, and that's all because of you. So thank you for that connection. You know, this will be that'll be a fun thing. You know, I wonder how many sats. I'll give away sats. That's what I'll do. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. How are you feeling about education lately?
um, I like it to one aspect. A lot of the learn to earn stuff out there is very scratch the surface. Even the stuff that I create, you know, I'm using Asset Dash to create a learn and earn curriculum. Um, and I, you know, uh, uh it's very Chad level when you're talking to Web3 people. You have to make it very short, you know, 6 pages, no more than 2 sentences, and it's really to just spark interest. Um, and then at the same time, it's uh, you know, that's for Web3 native people. I think, you know, what Coinbase is doing, they're doing a little bit more deeper dive with like a little bit of video and a little bit longer text. User goes deep dive into like Byzantine fault and general solutions, you know, DAGs, um, you know, compression cycles, Merkle trees. You know, I'm waiting to get to level 4 where hopefully we'll start talking about Verkles, you know. And now I sound like a complete nerd. I'm nerding out about Verkles.
As long as you understand that we're early, I think there's nothing wrong about being a nerd.
Uh, I will definitely say we are early, but I say that time, the time for that is running out. I I say we have about 10 years, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm here for it. I think it's great. I think if it showed up too quick, the things that everyone's afraid of, nobody would have time to prep for.
Yeah. So Monday I live streamed Crypto Monday here in New York, hosted by Lou Kerner, with I'm gonna pronounce his last name wrong. I know it, um, but it's Andrew Dinger. He's the founder of Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, of Republic, and he really sort of talked about, you know, his days as an early Bitcoin miner. You know, he thought he was late mining 600 Bitcoin a day. Um, and then talked about sort of the future, but then talked about technology, um, and talked about, you know, some of the basic things of technology, radio, television, email, and then standards as well, and how it took, you know, what is it? TCP/IP. You know, that took 25 years as a standard to come into play. It really didn't, you know, invented in the 70s, and it didn't get used as a standard until the 90s. Television invented, but wasn't used until like the 40s. Radio took 25 years to get into homes as well. You know, how, you know, when did you get your first email address?
Oof, I'm thinking about AOL right now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was a child, a child at best. I think it's just something that I didn't understand what it would become.
Yeah.
Like I don't think any of us understood that we go from making phone calls on these devices to it being almost more important than losing your wallet. Like that's something I don't think I'd ever be able to wrap my head around, just with these devices and when it comes to tech. And then I agree, if you think about how early the internet was versus where it is now, it's no wonders we have a little bit of a wait coming on.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, it was the early 90s, like 91 or something like that, that I made my first email. Because I remember my first computer that I got, was cost an arm and a leg. It took 2 years of saving up Alaska state dividend checks to be able to buy it. And I got that computer because it was top of the line with a 4X CD-ROM drive on it. Yeah, 4X. I was so cool. I was 4 times cooler than everyone else.
I believe it. I'm sitting here thinking about the mini disc player I used to once own.
Oh my
I think that's the exciting part. You don't know what gets to stay. Although I think Zune never stood a chance.
Oh my gosh. Mini discs, Zune. Why did these things die?
I just think everybody has great ideas and intention, but it doesn't mean that people use your products because of it. And to be honest, I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. If I remember, Zune had an FM player in it, didn't it? A radio?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it even had video too.
I don't remember that. I remember it having a radio in it, and it was like, wait, you're taking iPod and mixing it together with my FM radio player? What? Yeah, waiting a day and a half to download an album was talk about patience. Now I can't wait 30 seconds for settlement and execution to happen.
Yeah. Oh my, have the tides turned.
Yeah.
And I had to look. It had a media player that played 320 by 240.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Those videos were probably amazing. But I also love early day internet, right? There was a little bit more freedom of creativity. Not to say that there isn't now, but the parameters and scope change as any technology evolves. So it's one of those where I kind of try to soak this era up as much as I can too.
So a little bit of internet history. For me, I made my first website when I was like 8. Did I tell you this story, Yuri?
No, but I'm all ears.
So this is how far we've come. Porn sites used to have a paywall, but that's all they had. They didn't have a pay shield or moat. So if you got past the paywall, you were in. There was no re-authentication, nothing like that. And they'd have site maps too, sometimes like blended into the bottom of their screen, so you could get past it literally just by like clicking support and then like going back to something. So I made my first website at a bunch of sites that were past the paywall, and yeah, got a harsh letter for that. So, but I thought things were supposed to be free, and yeah, that was sort of how I thought, and I thought I was being devious. So
yeah, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. This is one of those moments.
Oh man, so what paywalls can I get people past today? KYC features. If you're looking for a centralized exchange, I use MEXC. If you want MEXC access, which does not KYC, reduces you to 20 Bitcoin withdrawal per day. All you need is a valid email address. Let me know, and we'll get you on it. We'll get you on an exchange where I go and leverage trade at 200x. Oh man, I've been called the mayor of Lilliputian because I turn like $1 into like 30 on the regular, or $1 into 200. One of the funny things that was talked about at Crypto Monday was loss porn. Did you ever used to watch that on Wall Street Bets? How bad someone lost that day?
No, this sounds amazing.
Yeah, it loss porn, people posting your losses. So no matter what kind of day you had, you're like, at least I wasn't as bad as that sucker, you know? But I think it's really cool. There's that new movie out, Dumb Money. Have you gone and seen it yet?
No, I've not.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's sort of a hilarious piece, and I'm glad that that story gets told. One of the stories I'm afraid of hearing. I don't know if you saw this, but the writer that wrote The Big Short. You know who I'm talking about? I do not remember his name. Yeah, that's a thumbs up.
Yes.
But the writer of that wrote Apple got the rights to SBF story and have him as the writer. So this will be interesting. Did you watch any of the SEC commission hearing against Gensler yesterday?
No, I haven't gotten a chance yet. Tomorrow's my day of catch up.
Okay.
What I miss?
I only watched maybe the first 30 minutes of it, because it was just a bunch of grandstanding talking about a whole bunch of other things and people trying to thank or banish, Gary Gensler and like talk about, whose fault it is for the impending government shutdown and everything like that. But when I'm watching those, sometimes I imagine, what would I say if if I was called to testify on that, or if I had shown up. But I didn't know if you ever think about that, and what you might say, what might be your words of wisdom of what you think you would add to the conversation.
What do you mean, in what aspect?
You're in front of the Senate hearing committee, financial committee, and you are asked to testify as a member of the public on the power of DeFi and CeFi. What say you?
Access to banking is a fundamental right, is what I would lean into.
Okay. And do you think that, if someone would be like, I think last night I was like, people were so, yeah, I'm sure politicians on both sides, were really happy to take political donations, but I think everyone was so excited to find a point person that seemed legitimate that it sort of blinded people. Do you think how many years do you think SBF set us back? Or do you think he did?
I don't know if he did. I toss and turn about that. I don't have a perfect answer, but I don't know. I don't know if he exposed something that was truly shocking to me the more I think about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get that. What do you think on it though? Like, where do you think that might have helped us or hurt us?
I think he more so ripped the Band-Aid off. Like I I don't know if I ever bought the fact that there was a golden child that would save us all. I think that's the biggest problem I have with it, is that that's how he was viewed at one point in time. And why would we believe that we can appoint someone to kind of solve all these issues when, if anything, decentralization is what we believe in fundamentally?
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, what do you think is going to be the tipping point? Like, I know you believe in community and education. What do you? I know if you had the secret sauce, you would just start serving it out. But what do you think some of the spices are to make that sauce?
I think the belief in the fact that everyone is much more of an extremist than they really are. I think those are the ingredients that need to get removed out of the sauce. I think humans have a survival mechanism of putting each other in boxes and thinking that if someone holds an opinion, that it's only to the most extreme level, as opposed to incorporating nuance. And I think that's the one good thing that community conversations can enlighten people with, is that we have more in common than we realize. And I think those are the ingredients we need more of.
Do you think what would you say the number one commonality is right now with those among DeFi or CeFi, those in blockchain?
Everybody came for the gains and stayed for the education and personal finance.
I would agree with that. I think in the 11 years, I've taken more interest, in our financial economy, worldwide economics, um, and then I think in the last 2 years, I've educated myself more on blue sky laws, especially, in the Howey test. I know more about an orange field in Florida than I know probably about almost anything else. I think literacy is one of the biggest things that blockchain brings. But I think it's sort of ownership and control that keeps people, you know, the idea of being able to control one's assets, because we see how much data we give up. And what heck, even today, one of the things I learned, that Timu app.
Yes, I know of it. I'm afraid to spend on it. Have you bought stuff?
I don't even download the app because it was I didn't even download the app because it was released today that within its code is how much data it collects about the user and how much almost like spyware it has in it, from screen overlays to being active when you're not even using it.
That's terrifying. I feel
Yeah.
like we're seeing more of those apps every day.
There was a breakdown on who the dev team is behind it and how they were behind this other Chinese app, and that because they were saying they were breaking it out on in investors that on a minimum they're losing $20 per order, or I think it was $38 per order. That if someone spends $20, they're losing $38. And so you got to wonder where they're getting their money, and if and collecting and selling data seems to be a really good piece on that.
Yeah, it's terrifying how valuable data is. It's, it definitely it gives you a leverage when it comes to utilizing time. So that makes all the sense in the world. I just I feel like there's a better way to utilize energy than building apps that take so much away and give so little.
Yeah, and this is weird because I do come from a biz dev background, and that's what I do. And so like one of my jobs is collecting data, to aggregate it and use it and see how to support who with what. within my networks. So, I think a little bit of it is, what's the word I'm thinking of? A little bit of it is the intent of the actor, you know, um, versus, um, you know, especially with targeted ads and pieces like that. Like sometimes I miss the days when I just got all the mass emails asking me if I wanted to increase my boob size. Um, and then when ads started to, drop cookies to cue my computer or my email account what gender I am, you know, then I got all the enlargement ads instead of the other kind. So I think targeted ads serve a purpose, but I think that they also have been mishandled.
Yeah, totally. I think it's just greed kicking in. I think these are things that a personally curated newsfeed on your own terms can empower you or educate you. But a company curated newsfeed might be trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
And I think that can go either way. I think fundamentally the issue is we are a society with Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technologies. And that imbalance will make it interesting, at least for the next 10 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, uh, the next 10 years will be really interesting. So far during this conversation, 5 blocks of Bitcoin have been mined. As we work on our 6th block right now, is that weird how we judge time? No. Yuri, I want to give you the floor for a minute. What's something that you would like to talk about?
I think just soft skills. Like I had you on a space the other week, and I think that's really what needs to be worked on. Like I think that we can be as technical as we'd like here. And I know you are capable of both fields, but I think the other field of incorporating soft skills at the less technical is something that's very underappreciated in this space. And I think it's part of the reason that there's bear market woes currently. I'm just curious how you feel about interactions and onboarding people.
So I think onboarding people is one of the hardest and easiest things to do. Um, I think I think people don't that maybe get frustrated that like they spit some knowledge, and then someone that says they don't understand, the common response is do your own research. I think that someone's coming to you or listening to you, you are their research. So passing the buck, I think, is a really, really big write-off. And I think that is a cheap way out. And so I think um, someone that's around me a lot sees how I onboard people, and they came up with a really good story, analogy, of how I onboard people. And when someone asks, why does it matter? Have you ever heard the starfish story?
I'm very curious. What is the starfish story?
So the starfish story is there's an old man in the sea, tide's super out, and there's a bunch of there's the beach is covered in starfish. Um, and he's just, slowly taking his time, bending over, picking one up, throwing it into the ocean, walking to the next, bending over, picking it up, throwing it into the ocean. And a kid comes up to him and he's like, old man, the beach is littered in these, it's you're not making a difference. It doesn't matter. And the old man bends down, picks another starfish up and throws it into the ocean. He's like, it matters to that one. And so, yeah, I think if we blind ourselves by looking at how many people aren't versus just the person in front of us, whether it be a neighbor, a friend, someone we're having coffee with, or just a random person that you just like, you have like, you know, when you're going in and buying something at a convenience store and being like, hey, do you Bitcoin? And starting a conversation that way.
Yeah, I dig it. I think there's all sorts of learning styles, and I think we're just at a time where there's the open invite, and then I also think that there's the use case approach that I've been kind of taking lately. Even with all the Reddit strikes and whatnot, I've noticed that it's a lot more inviting to discuss new technology and creator economy tools with people who need this stuff, just like we were talking about with other use cases. And that's been another way I've been trying to bump into people. And I think, funny enough, those people also get coffee, and I've noticed that that's where those conversations take place. But I think looking for the ways that it fits also empowers that concept that much more.
Yeah. I think there's just some aspects of it that, like, the refer to earn, I think, is still a very underutilized aspect. I think it can be overutilized. I know when I used to onboard people with like Abra and Celsius, I get $40 to onboard someone new, and you know, if they staked $15, they would get a $40 as well. And that was a perpetual thing. And so I got into the aspect of like standing with someone long enough for them to finish a complete sign up. And I'd be like, here's $15 so that you can stake it and earn this $40 by doing nothing. And, I think that this was sort of, I talked with Coinbase. I have over 400 referrals to Coinbase.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I only have about 80 that have taken the extra step of attaching their bank account and like buying more than $100 worth of crypto in their first month of using the app. So, over the last 5 years, I've made about $800 in referral fees, because they $10 per person that buys $100 worth of crypto in their first month. But I tell people about just getting their learn and earns done, and especially on the Web3 wallet side that Coinbase has pushed out now too. So like right now, I think they're doing like $65 worth of giveaway campaigns to teach people about like the graph, optimism, base, and access protocol, plus all the other ones they have.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you have to start somewhere, and once again, like, that's a whole nother approach on showing up for gains and learning more about actual finance. I just think it's a lot better than people who have to stumble in hoping they'll get 20x, and that if they send 2, they'll get 1 back. It really is just the right move. It's the only way this will work.
Yeah. Do you think that we'll get a, I don't know, do you think we'll run out, at times? Do you know
Of
the Steam?
ideas or incentives to compensate people for learning?
Both.
No, only if the onboarding has nothing to do with modern or current events. I think that's the only way people will learn about any of this, is if the use case bends to the individual, which thankfully the tech is based around or inspired by.
Yeah. Man, as we're on our sixth and final block of Bitcoin for this show, want to shout out and thank everyone from Farcaster and Warpcast, Unlonely, Twitch, Telegram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter for joining us. We're streaming to like 9 places at once right now, which is hilarious. But this was I was glad we were able to have this conversation, Yuri. What's your one wallet that you want to see some people use today?
I'm gonna go with Yoroi wallet. I'll be a little bit biased.
Cardano.
Bring that wallet to Wednesday, 2:00 Eastern, the Culture Maxi show. And I'm more than happy to teach.
All right. We will showcase. We'll put a text blast out for the Android version of Yoroi because that's what we have. And we'll put that in the comments of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode 406, so that you can find that. Yeah, there it is. It is shared in the Jumbotron by Yuri. Come to his space on Wednesday with your Cardano wallet, and I don't know. Are you giving away NFTs, ADA, or Yuri coin?
Definitely no meme coins. But if you DM me with an address, there's probably some entertaining NFT I can send along.
Oh my God, yes. Speaking of entertaining NFTs, or I don't know, we actually made a new NFT video yesterday, or 2 days ago now. We accidentally minted it on Zora first, or Linea. I think on Linea or Zora, and then we put it on Base. We made it a free mint. Our little video of tribute of Stand with Crypto. So, that was sort of the shout out and call. So, I will be honest. If it gets a lot of mints, I win a prize of 5 ETH, and I was going to take 2 of the ETH and spread that out to everyone that mints because I'm a degen and I like getting free things. So yeah, the other 3 ETH is going towards media stuff because I don't have good stuff and want better stuff. So yeah, subscriptions cost a lot. Subscription model, in or out on subscription models, Yuri, or should everything be free?
I say in because I think there should be options. I think everything should be free, but then again, we just talked about that. What type of information are we taking from old ladies if we do that?
Yeah. Or at least have a freemium version, I think, that still works, So, Yuri, since you are on the hot seat, you get to help us end this show. For those, want to thank everyone for joining us today and tonight and tomorrow. Final thoughts and words of wisdom.
We're just getting started, and people don't always remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
All right, that is it. And your space is on Wednesday, talking about Cardano and community and sort of the soft skills of speaking and just interacting as an individual and as a business and BD. Anything else you're talking about Wednesday?
That covers it, but it's a great way to build. We basically have builders on, and I think it applies to everyone. It's from a chain, but ultimately those skills are chain agnostic.
Yeah. And so, we're bringing, as we are getting into almost the end of our 6th block of Bitcoin being mined, we are now going to end the show and want to thank everyone, YouTube, Twitch, Telegram, Discord, LinkedIn, and YouTube channel 2, and Warpcast, and Twitter for joining us on our 3 different streams that we have going on Twitter right now. We should consolidate figure out how to consolidate those. But I end as always with my words of wisdom. A closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth. Meaning, if no one knows you're looking for opportunity can never come a knocking. And if it does come a knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. And Yuri, since you are here, you get to be with us as we end with the best, worst knock joke on the face of the planet. And this is how we have ended now soon to be 406 episodes of TacoBytes. Wow, that's a lot. Are you ready for this, Yuri?
Maybe.
All right. But before we do the knock joke, I do have to let everyone know in 6 days on episode 412, we have a senator from the Marshall Islands joining us. And we have Adam Miller from MyDAO talking about setting up either a nonprofit or a for-profit company in the Marshall Islands as a DAO within their legal structure. They are a separate nation, so they do not have to share IP and information with other countries like the US does. But because it is a US territory, you're able to be grandfathered in and have LLC and bank accounts in the US. So we end with the greatest, worst knock joke on the face of the planet. Yuri, you ready for this?
Yes.
Knock.
Who's there?